Chapter 14. Fear of Safety. Elizabeth woke up. She was on a camel. She could tell by the swaying motion. Jankar lay between her and the goat. That thing better not give her fleas again. Jankar started to cry. A girl was sitting beside her. For a moment she thought she was recaptured. The girl must have realized this as Elizabeth's eyes widened with fear. "My name's Carty of the Western Harem. This is my father's caravan." She handed Elizabeth a goatskin filled with milk. "One of our men milked the goat. I think Jankar is thirsty." Carty appeared to be about 15. She was a head taller than Elizabeth and had coal-black skin. She had her hair in long braids. "You believe me?" Elizabeth asked. "A girl with a baby stumbles out of the desert in the middle of nowhere? The harem do not question when someone requests sanctuary," Carty chuckled to herself. "Of course, we have heard rumors of the kidnapping, so yes, I believe you." "Where are we?" Elizabeth asked. "We picked you up last night. The storm died down early this morning before light. Dad got us moving right away. We'll be into the sand dunes in half a week. Then it'll be 2.5 weeks to Western Harem Land. Things have improved since your mother and aunt rediscovered this route." "Where are you from?" Elizabeth asked. Carty handed Elizabeth more water when Jankar was done eating. "We live in Nizza now. I travel with my father to help him make the sails. We travel from Nizza to Tilimi and sometimes to the Esti Federation and down to Dragonia. Well, if you're ever in Bithnyia City, look me up. I'll tell my servants and bodyguards to bring you right in," she told Carty. "Your life must be interesting. Can I burp Jankar?" Carty asked. "Go ahead," Elizabeth said with a laugh. "Be careful, he might spit up on you." She paused. "My life might be interesting, but I'll bet yours is more so. You must travel half the world." Carty's father, Kartan, checked on the girls twice a day. He made sure Jankar's goat was given plenty of feed so she would keep producing milk for Jankar. A few days after she arrived, he asked her where she came from in the desert. Elizabeth almost told him. She was concerned for the safety of other caravans. Zet's men could still be dangerous, but a little voice inside of her told her to wait. Uncle Yujan would want to know first. This was a big problem. By the end of the week, she had healed. Her stomach still hurt where Zet had cut her, but otherwise she was fine. Elizabeth began to get nervous. She had worked so long to protect Jankar. From overhearing the conversation between Zet and the Parthian ambassador, she suspected the Talon had a large organization. Zet's men might be everywhere. One of them could be in this caravan. Cartan's caravan soon passed into the sand dunes. The camel Elizabeth rode on was Carty's. "I don't mind sharing the space with you," Carty told her. "Besides, you let me hold Jankar sometimes. I have many brothers and sisters at home, and I haven't seen them in months." It wasn't like Elizabeth didn't get her own space. Carty spent hours checking the camels with her father. They had 30 of them, after all. When she wasn't working, she sat and talked with Elizabeth. "I feel like I'm not helping with this caravan," Elizabeth told her. "Nonsense," Carty said. "You're taking care of Jankar." "Well, you help too," Elizabeth pointed out. "Of course. Jankar is the only baby I've seen in months, and you're the only girl I have to talk to." Carty noticed Elizabeth had hardly been out of the tent in days. She didn't seem to like open spaces much. She didn't like to give up holding Jankar much either. "Why don't we go for a walk?" Carty asked Elizabeth. It was only grudgingly that Elizabeth came, and she had to carry Jankar. Then the sand was too hot for him, so they were not out for too long. Carty tried other times without much success. The days passed slowly. Thankfully, the weather was good. Cartan's caravan didn't hit a single sandstorm. They didn't lose a single camel either. Carty was rarely able to get Elizabeth out of the tent. She knew Elizabeth would enjoy herself, but she refused. Instead, Carty spent hours talking with Elizabeth. Elizabeth started to share Jankar less and less. Elizabeth's stomach continued to hurt. The wound had healed, so she told no one. Cartan was a little worried when Elizabeth asked to borrow a knife for protection. He relented when Carty reminded him that Elizabeth was the daughter of Zithni and in line for the throne of Bithnyia. Time dragged by for Elizabeth. Eventually, they left the sand dunes and entered Western Harem Land. That night, they camped at a harem castle. It had a full complement of warriors and pens for Masti. Cartan left the caravan immediately to speak with the castle commander about Elizabeth. The commander was so concerned he came to Elizabeth in Carty's tent to see Elizabeth. "You are the Princess Elizabeth?" he asked her. "Yes," she replied. "I fought with your father at the Teeth. It was a magnificent battle. Oh well, that's for another time. I will send a Masti to Tilimi camp. The harem of harems is there. You better go with it. Have you ever ridden on a Masti before?" he asked. Yes, I have, Elizabeth told him. She even showed some interest in the thought. I rode on a masty from Menlar to the Haddock Empire. The castle commander slapped his head in frustration. Of course, I had forgotten that story. You can leave in the morning if you wish, Princess. That would be fine, Elizabeth told him. Are you coming with me? Elizabeth asked Carty. I'm sorry, I have to stay with the caravan, said Carty, but we will arrive in Tilamy in 2 or 3 weeks. Oh, Elizabeth said, I'll miss you. Me too, said Carty. Then she hugged Elizabeth. Elizabeth must have looked lost. Carty helped her pack. She made sure she took her knife back from Elizabeth. When Elizabeth looked troubled, she just said, You are with harem warriors now. I don't think you will need it anymore. They packed clean clothes for Jankar. Elizabeth had shown Carty how to make onesies. Carty walked Elizabeth and Gertie to the castle. Elizabeth was placed in a nice room used for important people. I don't deserve this, Elizabeth told Carty. Of course you do, silly, said Carty with concern. You saved the harem of Harem's son. You're a princess. Elizabeth just looked at Carty blankly. Carty wondered why she couldn't accept the fact that she was a hero. It was disturbing. Take care of yourself, Carty told Elizabeth as she gave her one last hug. The commander was bursting with pride having Elizabeth in the castle. He had an elaborate meal prepared in her honor and was crestfallen when she said her stomach hurt and she'd like to stay in her room. In the morning, at first light, the castle commander led her to the masty she was to travel on. This masty was being used as a courier. Masty in battle had what amounted to a ship deck on their backs. The ones Elizabeth had seen had been an impenetrable castle which provided warriors a safe place to rain arrows down upon their enemies. This masty just had a light wooden platform. The masty would travel fast and long. It had 1 captain and 4 soldiers. Elizabeth, Jankar, and the goat altogether weighed less than 1 man. We'll be back at Tilamy camp in 1 week with no problems, Jilt proudly told her. The first day went smoothly. A light rain splashed on them. Jilt had 5 children at home. He liked babies. Elizabeth actually let him hold Jankar. They laughed together in the rain while Elizabeth huddled under a sort of tarp. She felt chilly and her stomach hurt. She remembered Zet had followers everywhere. She was pretty sure Jilt wasn't one of Zet's men. Gertie curled up with her. They spent the first night at a fort. The next day, Jilt played with Jankar. He sang Jankar harem war songs. Jankar thought they were really funny. Elizabeth began to wonder if Jilt was one of Zet's agents after all. Maybe all the warriors on this masty were. They might all be out to get her. It was so hard to think now. That night, Elizabeth stole a knife from one of the sleeping warriors. The brigands were everywhere. She had to protect Jankar and herself. Maybe not Gertie. Gertie had fleas. She might be one of the brigands too. The next 2 days, Jilt held Jankar as the wind streamed through her hair. Jilt told Jankar stories. My family will always be honored by my having held the son of the harem of harems, he assured Elizabeth. Elizabeth waited in her corner, watching Jilt. She would protect Jankar no matter what. One of Jilt's men had whittled Jankar some toy warriors. He liked to drool on them. When he beat Jilt with them, he merely laughed. What a strong little warrior, Jilt commented. That night, Jilt asked Elizabeth if he could show Jankar the stars. She had fed him, and he was getting sleepy, but sometimes Jankar would play for a little while before falling asleep. Elizabeth's stomach had been hurting worse. She was getting more and more feverish. Jilt leaned toward her in concern. She was getting really sick. Princess Elizabeth, are you all right? I could rock Jankar asleep for you, he told her. No, she screamed. You won't take him. You will never get him. I will kill you first, Zet. Jilt stepped back. She waved the knife at him. Take it easy, he told her. Elizabeth slashed at him and cut his arm. You'll never get him, she croaked. Leave us alone. Sir, one of the men told Jilt, she will kill Jankar. No, I don't think so, Jilt assured his men. Jankar is the only one of us safe. Let's see if we can get some more speed out of this old girl. Someone bind this wound. Jilt let them travel as fast as they could. Every day, Elizabeth grew weaker and more feverish. For the next 2 days, if anyone came too close, she would try to knife them. The only other thing she would respond to was Jankar's cry. Elizabeth always fed him when he needed it. The last day, she was so sick Jilt was able to hold Jankar. He milked Gertie and changed the diapers, but whenever Jankar needed feeding, he would give him back to Elizabeth. She was always gentle with Jankar. On the 3rd evening, a week since leaving the fort, they arrived at Tilamy River Camp. They had outpaced any messengers, so their arrival was a complete surprise. Through the pain and fever, Elizabeth heard someone named Eujon climb aboard. He looked like Zet. She tried to knife him. You will never get Jankar. Get away, she croaked. Yujan easily dodged her attack and threw the knife away. It made a whistling sound as it flew through the air. He held Jankar for a moment, sobbing. I thought we would never see you again, was all he could say. Then he gave Jankar to one of his warriors and turned to Elizabeth. She could hear him yell for the healers. She thought Uncle Yujan carried her to a tent. Then everything went black.